Well, chapter 3 of the book of Nahum is the final chapter of the book. I told you it was a short one. This is continuing the poetry, the revelation given to Nahum on the destruction of Nineveh, the capital of Assyria. So, an opportunity for the Israelites to see justice happen, to see that come full circle with the Assyrians, basically. Verse 1, woe to the bloody city. So, they're definitely a violent city. It is full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not. Now, another translation of that last line there in the verse is, there is always someone to prey upon. So that's the same idea, that the city is a crazy place to be. It's robberies, lies, corruption, problems, violence in the city, lots of stuff happening. You go there, but you get preyed upon, and you don't. There's always someone to prey upon, basically, try to steal and go again. So if you think of that idea of the Master Mahan principle as well with that they don't value life, they value the stuff they can take from you to improve themselves. Verse 2, the noise of a whip, and the noise of the rattling of the wheels, and of the prancing horses, and of the jumping chariots. So this is war, the sounds of war, basically. The verse 3 is continuing on with that. In fact, the horseman lifteth up both the bright sword and the glittering spear. And there is a multitude slain, and a great number of carcasses, and there is none end of their corpses. They stumble upon their corpses. So there's so many people destroyed that they're just everywhere. It's just like there's no end to the amount of dead people there are because of that battle. When Babylon and Persia moves through, they don't leave anything left, basically. Now, verse 4, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. Now, in other words, this is kind of an interesting thing to think about. She not only turned to wickedness herself, but exported wickedness to other places, basically, as well. So as Assyria grew and expanded, as Assyria went to more places, the wickedness and the corruption spread with them, basically. They exported their wickedness with them. Verse 5, behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. So this idea is basically, think about it, having your skirt pulled up over you so that it reveals your secret parts to everybody, basically. Now, in today's world, we think about this from an idea of women, but in their world, everybody, pants weren't a thing. Everybody wore like robes, basically. So you could see like the robes exposing them. So you can't think just in a female standpoint, but both male and female for this. But the thing that's interesting is the Hebrew word for covering is also atonement. So if the covering is lifted, your sins are exposed. You have to answer for your own sins. The atonement's not there to help you, basically. Could be another way to think about that. So let's jump forward with verse 6. And I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. So everybody's going to be like laughing at this person, looking at them, cast abominable filth upon thee. We could think of like a whole bunch of like animal poop put on the person, thrown at them. They are just, no one wants to touch them, no one wants to get near them. They're going to be dirty and stinky and all, just not a good situation, basically, kind of the laughing stock of everybody else. Verse 7, and it shall come to pass that they that look upon thee shall flee from thee and say, Nineveh is laid waste, who will bemoan her? Whence shall I seek comforters for thee? So Nahum means comfort, not necessarily comforters. If they followed the prophet, they might be comforted, but they rejected them all. Basically, they wouldn't follow any of the prophets. So there wasn't anybody to comfort them. The destruction was just bad. Like everybody else is like, I'm not going down there. The destruction is just horrible. We're going to avoid Nineveh. Verse 8, art thou better than populace? No. Or which was populace? No. Now, no wasn't saying no, as in nope, the opposite of yes. Populace, no, the word for no back then was the name of a city, which is Thebes. That's Egypt, basically, a previous capital of Egypt. So this is, art thou better than the populous Thebes, basically. Thebes was a very cosmopolitan city back then, just like Nineveh would have been. So continuing on, that was situate among the rivers, that had the waters round about it, whose rampart was the sea, and her wall was from the sea. So are you better than Thebes, basically? Ethiopia and Egypt were her strength, and it was infinite. Put and Libum were thy helpers, which are some of the neighboring areas around Egypt. Verse 10, yet was she carried away. She went into captivity. Her young children also were dashed in pieces at the top of all the streets. And they cast lots for her honorable men, and all her great men were bound in chains. This is talking about the destruction of Thebes. Now, that was around 663 BC, like we talked about in chapter 1. So this is realizing this is a past tense. So this is why we think that Nahum was written after 663 BC, because this is seen as Thebes has already fallen. This is past tense. They're talking about the fall of Thebes, saying, are you better than that city? And that city collapsed and fell. It was horrible. Verse 11, thou also shalt be drunken, thou shalt be hid, thou shalt seek strength because of the enemy. So drunken means they're going to, confused, perceptually, not able to understand what's going on all the way. Thou shalt be hid and seek strength because the enemy, they're going to look for their friends, and no one's going to come and help Assyria. They were not nice to anybody. Verse 12, all thy strongholds shall be like fig trees with the first ripe figs. If they be shaken, they shall even fall into the mouth of the eater. Meaning it's going to be simple. So could you imagine just walking under a fig tree, shaking it, a couple figs fall in your mouth, you can eat them. That's how easy the fall of Nineveh is going to be. Now, Nineveh didn't take very long to fall in and of itself. It lasted like a year or two in the siege, and then just was bad. It just went really bad. Verse 13, the whole empire took just a couple of years, like 3 or 4 years, for the whole empire to collapse and be gone, basically. It went really, really fast. So verse 13, behold, thy people in the midst of thee are women. The gates of thy land shall be set wide open unto thine enemies. The fire shall devour thy bars. So imagine a city had nothing but women in it. Is it going to be easy to conquer? Yeah, that's what they're coming from. They're not necessarily saying that there's no men in the place, but in a way you could see a little bit of an interpretation in that direction, to say that because of the fighting, the men are dead, and so the women and children are all that's left, basically. But the gates are going to be wide open. There's going to be no defense. It's not going to work. Nineveh is going to fall, and it's going to feel like it's going to go super easy. They're just going to fall and collapse quick. For how long it took the Assyrian Empire to grow to its size, man, it fell really fast. It fell apart real quick. Verse 14, draw thee waters for the siege, fortify thy strongholds, go into clay and tread the mortar, make strong the brick kiln. So make more bricks, improve your fortifications, get ready, because it's going to be, prepare for the siege. Now the siege means Babylon and Persia would march around the city, basically block off all the resources and just let the people starve to death inside. And when they get super weak, then they go invade where they can't, basically they can't fight back. So they gain a military advantage there. Verse 15, there shall the fire devour thee, the sword shall cut thee off, it shall eat thee up like the cankerworm. Make thyself many as the cankerworm, make thyself many as the locusts. So sword, fire, it's going to destroy you. The cankerworms are going to come and eat. The bodies are going to be everywhere. It's going to be a bad situation. Verse 16, thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven. The cankerworm spoileth and flieth away. So if you think about the idea of merchants, so lots and lots of commerce, huge economy in the city of Nineveh, lots of economic prosperity happening, but there's corruption. And that's the problem. The whole economy is corrupt. Verse 17, thy crowned are as the locusts, and thy captains as the great grasshoppers. which camp in the hedges in the cold day. But when the sun ariseth, they flee away, and their place is not known where they are. So you think about this idea of the grasshoppers and things. When it's cold, they come out to enjoy things. When it gets hot, they go find shelter. They get out of the sun because they know it's going to be a bad situation. So that's kind of the same idea of when it gets hard, it's all gone. They're all going to go away. Verse 18, thy shepherds slumber, O king of Assyria. Thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people is scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathereth them. There is no healing of thy bruise. Thy wound is grievous. All that hear the bruit of thee shall clap the hands over thee. For upon whom hath not thy wickedness passed continually? Now in that book, Nahum, a poet prophet, they said here, the final poem in chapter 3 opens with a prelude on the evils of the oppressive city Nineveh. Her lies, rape, and sorcery, her prey and thousands slain, her harlotry and witchcraft, and the seduction of the nations, all are told. Because of all this, the prophet says, she shall become detestable. Like all others, strong but wicked, Nineveh shall fall. All her defenses shall be useless when her leaders flee like locusts. Her end has come. There remains for the prophet but to write the epitaph, basically. Nahum's message is still true. Decadence ends in destruction. Although the Lord is slow to anger, he is also great in power and will not at all acquit the wicked. His mercy shall not rob justice, but neither will justice rob his mercy. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knoweth them that trust in him. So good news if you trust in God and follow him. Bad news if you don't. And the difference is the people who trust in God are the ones that are repenting often. They're trying to be better, trying to improve their lives, basically. So interesting insight into the fall of Nineveh and the destruction of Assyria, which is a symbol, a type of what the destruction of the wicked is going to be like in the last days, meaning it's going to feel like it should have happened already. It's that patience of God, that, it's slow to anger, is going to take some time to build up. But when it happens, it's going to be fast and swift. And if you're not careful, you're not going to see it coming. It's going to go quick, and it'll be astounding how fast the destruction will be and how bad it will be, basically. So it's just best to follow God and keep his commandments and move forward with what he wants you to do because of that. So let's jump to our next book as we continue the Old Testament.